I'm Zach, and this is Failed to Crit. And today, we are diving into Chapter 3 of the Frostmaiden. Now, if you watched the first few videos and you felt like I was kind of rushing it, well, it's because I'm not really good at this. But also, it's because I was jacked to get into Chapter 3 and 4, which is where things start to really pick up and get very, very cool. Let's start with Xordarock. We have an evil Duergar who has become corrupt and paranoid and is isolated in his fortress. He's been sending his kids out to find this Chandolin magical dark ice, and with it, he's used it to forge a dragon. Ice is making him go mad. In fact, not only does he just sit on a throne, but he has lots of these trinkets made of this ice, all of them making him more paranoid, more suspicious, and giving him feats of madness. The paranoia has caused him to send his sons out on perilous missions to get even more of the Chandolin. And so while they're out, he worries that they're scheming against him. His paranoia even leads to his generals and his assistants. In fact, he's even rewarded them for spying on each other. Ironically, the only person he doesn't think to be treacherous is the most treacherous person in there, Gondolfa Musgrout. She is the heiress to a rival Duergar clan made famous by a mushroom ale that she controls all the rights to. He wants to distribute her ale to all of 10 towns in a plot to gain her favor. Grandolpha, however, she's too wise in her old age and has seen this trick before. She doesn't trust him and is actually plotting against him. She's convinced a couple of his soldiers to actually turn and pledge loyalty to her. This opens up so much roleplay opportunity when storming this fortress. You have opposing forces inside, all of them trying to take the legs out of Xordarock. Add to that, the players are now on a ticking clock. Right as they're approaching the fortress, the Chandolin dragon flies out of the top and heads its way back to 10 towns. And every minute they spare here is death and destruction back where they came from. Now the party's faced with that old bird in the hand versus two in the stone. Did they stay here and fight Xordarock, or do they head back and try and save the villages? If your party's deciding to go back, you gotta jump to Chapter 4, and I'll see you in that video. If they're staying here and trying to root out this Duergar, well then we'll continue on. The fortress is described out of being carved out of stone and ice. Duergar, being dwarves, would have excellent skill here. Beautiful stonework, very smooth scenes, great geometry, and it's important that we narrate that as we go through, especially room to room. The rooms don't need to be lit because Duergar have dark vision. But that doesn't mean that they wouldn't have some light sources. The book narrates that there are braziers or even fireplaces that give some light because they still want to be warm. The stonework in here, though, is exceptional, right? I mean, beautiful architecture, beautifully clean cut, no cracks in the stone, everything maintained, everything polished, giving it a very strong presence. And you want the whole fortress to have that kind of overwhelming narrative. Everything here is strong. The doors are heavy. Everything in here says steadfast strength. The first 4 rooms in this dungeon crawl are laid out like a barracks. You have a lot of Duergar in here, standing guard or hanging out, just waiting for the alarm bells to sound. With one caveat, you have a Duergar loyal to Grandolfo in here, and if you roleplay it right, you might even be able to skip most of this and have the party get rushed on by to go meet Grandolfo, which is actually a neat little hook I really like and will probably try and lean into if I can. I think skipping a lot of the fighting in the guard area and allowing for this subterfuge and sneaky plot will be kind of a great misdirection. But if your party doesn't bite on that, make sure you do right by the Duergar. Make the fight hard. Lots of retreating, lots of enlarge, lots of battlements. These guys know what they're doing. They're battle hardened. They've been raiding and pillaging and fighting down in the Underdark. These guys know what to do. So make sure you boned up on your tactics and give them a good hearty fight. Out of the first 6 rooms, the only thing of real importance that they gotta latch onto is the map in X4. That tells the path of the dragon and should give your players some doubt whether to continue forward. After they know where it's going, they're going to see how vulnerable these towns are. And if they decide to go back, this information is key. In X8, we meet Grandolpha and another roleplay opportunity. Again, she's not here necessarily as a combatant, so we can talk to her, we can kind of gain some intel. She doesn't really have any love for Xordarock, so she may angle to get the players to do her bidding. In addition to that, if any of your players have the slad pole, having this thing burst across the table in an alien-esque scene, just crazy. And again, may change the pacing of this whole fight. I like too that Grandolfo doesn't seem to care about the slad. She's like, leave that for him. That's not really my problem, which kind of sums up her whole character. She's out for herself, she's only here to see what is advantageous for her, and she's not feeling Zardarok. X10 and 11, you find the kids' room. Dirth and Nildarth. These rooms are kind of sad because you realize that they haven't been in them for very long, meaning that their dad is so paranoid about them usurping him that he keeps sending them out and won't let them just have a day of rest. That being said, there are some personal trinkets in here which could be cool to use later or just to steal because, I mean, rogue's got a rogue. If your party's battling on, you're going to start to see more Duergar show up. And again, these guys aren't going to go down without a fight, and they're not going to stay and die. They're going to keep retreating. They're going to keep calling for reinforcements. This fight should build up over time. If the party role-played well with Grandolpha, she'd have given him hints to where she thinks Zardarok is. So once we get to the elevators, we've got a choice to make. Do we go up to the ice level or down to the forge level? The forge level is where everything cool happens. The ice gate level is really just the mechanisms that allow the doors to open and some other cool trinkets up there and a little bit of other fights. But down to forge level, everything changes. The architecture opens up, we get a 30-foot high ceiling. There's a forge that's been running round the clock. Everything's filled with lightly obscured smoke, and there's an ambient glow of the coals and fires all around. We also kind of get to see the malice of Zardarok show its prime here. Not only do you see slaves and things dragged out of the Underdark and made to serve him, but you also just see his own wickedness as he's commanding and yelling at people, kind of bound by his own insanity. Inevitably, the players are going to have to fight him, probably down here. And when they do, he enlarges himself to the size of an ogre and is a real beast. Make sure you take time with this boss fight. Make sure you really feel like you know his stats and his turn order and how he would manipulate the battlefield and his soldiers to kind of make this feel like a true weighty boss fight. Hopefully the party doesn't wipe here, but there's a good chance that if you play your cards right as a DM, it should come pretty close. This should be the biggest challenge they've faced so far, and we really want to do it justice. Zardarok's a pretty beefy CR5. We've got Eldritch Blast, which isn't a joke. You've got some innate spell casting and hellish rebukes. This should be a good challenge for your party. Keep in mind too, he may not fight to the death. In fact, if he starts to feel like it's a losing battle, he's probably going to take off for more reinforcements, head back towards the barracks, or even maybe back towards Grandolpha. There is some fun to play there if you have Grandolpha kill him. But if he runs back towards the reinforcements, this fight could take a long time. And the best part is, even if they kill him, they're still in the middle of a brawl because they've got the dragon to tend with. And they're on a ticking clock, so they've got to hurry back out and try and save the people. So this whole event should feel epic and momentous. And so I hope with your storytelling and your narration, you really build that up. Sell this to the players. Take your time with it. Make sure your pacing is measured out, and make sure your pregame prep is on par. You don't want to wing it for this part. Definitely don't wing it like I've been winging these videos. And if you like any of this stuff, please leave a like, share, and subscribe. We're still trying to grow the channel. I'm still trying to figure out how all this works. I promise I'll try and roll better the next time. I'll see you for Chapter 4 where we really get into some dragon destruction. Take care.